Welcome to the Tiny Plastic Men toy development video. This I hope to be the first of many over the next coming months. And as you can see by now, I have changed the name. It is now Figure Fiend, and I hope that it will be easier for people to find my work and what I do. So over the video, I will be going through different things like completed toy runs of the past month's product, anything that I developed in small batches that I've shipped out. I will also be looking at stuff like new development in terms of sketches and concept work for new toys and products that I'll be putting out. And with that, I'll also be showing some of the side work that I'm doing, some of the contract work for smaller independent toy companies and some of the larger toy companies. And finally, what I'm going to do is, if I have any time for any projects of my own, any personal stuff, I will be showing that as well throughout each video. Now let's get started. First up is Krull. I went through and made a pass on trying to create the Beast, the Prince, and each of the Slayers, the White Tower Slayer and then the Standard Black Warrior. With each of these guys, I started with basic, rough concept sketches, front and side views, and then tried to work from that at least to sort of get the defining design for each of them before moving on to the base sculpt. The sculpts were done in ZBrush. As you can see by the prints, after doing a first pass, I tend to print out the first test and then make changes, as you can see by the notes here, before I do another. The Slayer, I was lucky enough that he came out pretty much the way I wanted on the first pass. Same went with the Beast itself. And then once I was able to get a lineup together, I was, comfortable with, I was able to move on to doing more of the prep for mass printing. And you'll see here is that, this is basically how I did the parts assembly, is that I broke the figures down into a very Kenner style rather than just traditional like shoulder and leg pins. I wanted them to sandwich together, use a harder plastic for the chest, and then the legs and arms and heads to be made out of softer, more flexible material. So they'd feel like the original figures and they would bend like the original figures. Now when it came to finishing the figures, I really wanted to display them in some really interesting ways, reminiscent of the film. These sets were basically, as you can see, just 11 by 17 sheet of printed paper for an image I found that was reference, and then black poster board and scattering that's actually taken for reptile cages. It is like the moss and then the ground little surface along with some plastic rocks. And I would just change the density based on the scene of how I wanted things to appear. These are some of the final photographs that came out of that photo shoot. So a little depth of field goes a long way, and you can use really inexpensive materials. Finally, you'll get to see the final photos. That's actually vape smoke right there. And I just used 2 desk lamps with tissue on either side. So very inexpensive to do. Moving on to some side work. Jason from White Elephant reached out to me to help him with the gore figure that he was creating, which is going to be known as Gargon, Lord of the Terran Warriors. So looking at the scan that I had been given, which was the original figure, the need was to make some adjustments to the basic structure of the figure. Give him articulated hands, ball-jointed shoulders, raise his overall height, sculpt and define the area of the head and neck and raise that up a little, and also do a pass on creating some weapons and accessories for him. So as you can see, this is the early version of the helmet and the club that I did, and then really just making him work alongside the existing figures, the Astro Command and Adventure Command line. So that is the final figure, my print of it with the adjustments, articulate hands, ball-jointed shoulders, overall height increase, the head and neck adjustments in there, and you can see him alongside his commander figure as well. So there'll be some other photos that basically just show some of the additional weapons that are going to come with him in their final form, And the club and pauldron, in addition to those, there will be new pieces that he's looking at adding as well. Possibly like a crown and scepter and a cape to make him, far more regal in that way. So any of these figures you can find, these have not been released yet, but they've been shown on the White Elephant stuff, and you can find the other Astro Command and Astro Adventure stuff there as well. This next piece was just getting a photograph of them that was very reminiscent, to sort of like pay homage to the vintage nature of the figures and the spirit of what they were. And any of this stuff can be found obviously on the White Elephant Toys site. You can find the Adventure Command stuff there and Astro Command stuff there as well. In addition to the White Elephant stuff, Jason also works with Brian from Plaid Stallions and Frank from Absolutely Retro. So I spent some time this week just doing some ads for the Lincoln Monsters to basically promote the figures that they've completed, which are amazing vintage style 70s dime store figures. And these ads were a lot of fun to create. This is all the stuff that obviously I grew up with. These old comic ads and old Aurora style ads were just really amazing and great inspiration for me to create a series of images for them to use to promote the figures themselves. So definitely you'll be able to find this stuff through each one of those sources, through Plaid Stallions, through Absolutely Retro, and by going to the site itself where you can find links to all three of them. And finally, we've reached the end of the video. This is the section in which I work on stuff that I have no plan on doing. It just sort of like occurs to me throughout the month. So this right here is a tree head sculpture mask that I did in college at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. I had done multiple casts. I only painted one, so I had this one left over for a good 20 years, and I unearthed it. I did a base coat of just acrylic and liquid latex, not even the good stuff, but the cheap Halloween kind, and then I did some acrylic sort of brush overs to get some color and definition in the area. I then went to Distortions Unlimited, I believe, and found some tutorials on how to do shading on the masks from the late 70s, early 80s, which basically had you using small spray bottles, filling them full of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and inks, which are then sprayed over the surface and then wiped with a rag. So it's very fast, very easy. It's greens and browns in there. And then I decided after I painted it that I wanted to add some more branches. So to not destroy the paint that was there, I then covered it in bits of plastic and tried to wrap it carefully before I brushed it. I think I spray primed it, and then I hit it again with the inks, the greens, the browns, as you can see, which would help protect the under structure from being hit by the blast and the sprays. And then the last thing I did is I wanted to add some webbing on the branches themselves. So I found this guy who was using these spray cans of Loctite adhesive, like the heaviest density, and by spraying those from a distance, it then falls and creates this webbing on the surface, which looks really convincing. It's pretty amazing. I did get a really heavy-handed initially though, and I sprayed on way too much, which then had to be removed with tweezers and all kinds of stuff. But you can at least see in some of these close-up how it basically adheres itself to the surface. The amber or sap leaking from the eyes is basically just hot glue and then mixed with a little color and glossed over. So that is it. Thank you. I appreciate everyone's support and for all the comments and everything you guys say on Instagram. And I'll have another one of these up shortly for you to check out. All right, take care.